Give or take. All right. Nobody's in the chat yet, so that's all right. I'll just start anyway. Hey guys, it is Shawn from Legends of Grayskull podcast. So I wanted to do this review, number one, because I actually reached out to Mondo, and I was just curious. Hey, would you guys be willing to let me have a review sample for certain figures and stuff? And to my surprise, they were more than happy to send a couple of samples my way. So first and foremost, up front, thank you, Mondo, for sending me the samples I'm going to be reviewing, especially tonight, the Anti Eternia He-man. But there will be another one coming up shortly. That one's a pretty decent one. I'm really excited to be showcasing that one just as much, if not more. So we're just going to get down to it. Let's just get into the box for starters. Now that I've opened them up and everything, so right off the bat, it will not be an unboxing. It will just be a review of the entire figure. So when you open it up, you're going to see this beautiful artwork, and the artwork is by Florian Bertmer. Beautiful, beautiful Anti Eternia He-man with that hellish hell skull behind him, which gives me the creeps and nightmares. But you know what? That's what the bad guys should be doing. The bad guys should be making the nightmares happen. On the back of the box here, there are some words, and on the inside, unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the photographer, but we get this gorgeous shot of Anti Eternia He-man looking like he's ready to go head-to-head against He-man, which is pretty freaking sweet. Now the back, I'll read it, why not? By the power of Hellskull, the master of Anti Eternia, Anti He-man, ruled over the sinister world located in the universe of darkness. Forging his way through an interdimensional gate built by Skeletor, Anti Eternia He-man waged war on Eternia and challenged He-man to combat. It was only when Skeletor and Man-at-Arms aided in the fight by destroying the gate that Anti Eternia He-man was vanquished. At least for now. So, there's your box. And without further ado, here's the man of the hour, Mondo Anti Eternia He-man. So this figure is one that I was up in the air on whether I was going to do anything with him. I know and completely understand, just like in Classics, he is a repaint. But there's definitely some things here that grab my attention. I'm like, and honestly, I will say up front, this is my second of the review samples that I went to Mondo and asked if I could talk about. The first one will be coming along eventually here. So it is interesting the way that the scheduling worked out and all that kind of stuff. But one of the main things about this figure for me are the translucent weapons. I get a kick out of these every darn time. This power sword, I mean, I'm looking at it now. I love the translucency. I love the way the light hits this. I love that it looks like they forged lava into the power sword. But it also does remind me a little bit of those ring suckers that kids will get sometimes. My kids love those things. And it does amuse me on some level. There is a part of me, I know there's some people that when they were kids, they would put the He-man figures, their hands and whatnot into their mouths and be chewing on them and all that stuff. This wouldn't be close behind for me. It would be like, yeah, should I or shouldn't I? But I love this sword. I love the design of it. I love that it is the more like mini comic Alcala inspired kind of a vibe. Hi, Joe. How's it going? Thanks for joining me. But I also I love this translucency. It really rocks for me. So this power sword this battle axe, again, translucent, but it's even frosted on the sides. There's something about that. I mean, it actually does kind of remind me too of like if you tried freezing Kool-Aid as a kid, and this is like the ends of it didn't quite get the Kool-Aid into it, but there you go with the ice at least. But I'm just getting such a kick out of this stuff. It is so fun. And even the bottom has a little translucent part to it. And it's the little details and stuff like that that I really love about this line. Hey, Thanos Copter, thank you for joining me. But let's get into the figure. Why not? So I have the grimacing, menacing face on the figure as of right now. And actually, before I came on, I did do a swap here. So he's got the traditional chest harness on. But one of the major things that made me really want to get this figure the battle armor. I absolutely love the translucent battle armor on this thing. Let me swap that out really quick here just for the heck of it, because this is an okay look, but I will say Classics, Masters of the Universe Classics gave us this version already. So why don't we just amp them up a little bit here? Now, one thing I wanted to mention that it was a big deal earlier this year is how the issues, the QC issues were with the He-Man, the deluxe He-Man that came out. This figure, when will the new comic books come out and when are you going to read? Well, I wasn't really planning on talking about the comics tonight, but apparently the comics, the new Dark Horse ones, which I know that just came out yesterday, the news on that. Those are coming out in September. They are going to be a prequel to the Revolution series that will be out. And if you've listened to us on Legends of Grayskull previously, you know that, I mean, again, we're not writers. We don't do this professionally. Tim Seeley working on the book automatically gives me like, oh, so the beginning will be good, and we'll see if they stick the ending. But we also were not big on the prequel book for Revelation. So that also is like, let's see how this goes. But for the time being, yeah, it will be Crisco Kid it will be in September. I think it's September 12th or something. It is on the post that I put in the Legendati group earlier. But anyway, this is freaking sweet. I mean, the cool part for me is when we were kids, the only way you got battle armor was if you had He-Man or Skeletor. So the fact that here is a figure that has battle armor, and yes, he is He-Man technically, but he's not He-Man in the way that we know it. I love that they went there. I love that they added that little bit to it. So this, again, this is the Mondo, and it's a timed, limited edition version of Anti Eternia He-man. So the cool thing about this is you get that kind of stuff with it. Now, granted, he is sold out on the website, but I did promise a review for Mondo, and we're doing this tonight. And I wanted to do, by the way, I'll just put it out there. I wanted to do a review that wasn't just the typical, like how Pixel Dan does it. And we'll see how this goes. Maybe this flops, who knows. It might go well. I just wanted to do a review the way that I would do a review, which is I wouldn't be doing videos and editing them and all that stuff. I don't have that time. But sitting and talking shop with everybody, I thought would be a little more interesting, I guess. And then if you have questions, throw them at me. So I would have rather them continue the Masterverse than a Showtime. Yeah, Thanos Copter, I was kind of surprised that that's what's happening here. And it makes me a little frustrated that we're only getting mini-series out of Masters still from Dark Horse. That's not exactly the most fulfilling way of reading for me, because even DC, they were doing all the tie-ins, and it would be 6-issue thing between Masters and Thundercats or the Injustice and things like. And I'm like, can we just do like a regular book where it's just Masters of the Universe again? That would be great. So anyway, I had to geek out about the battle armor, but the figure does come with, and this one I forgot to unwrap, so I'll do it now. Figure comes with 2 other faces. So you have the very stoic looking face, which actually, that reminds me of a parent saying, I'm disappointed in you, and it makes it even worse when they're mad at you, as far as I'm concerned. And then, even though we did not have a vintage version as a kid, or as kids, we still get this. And what's crazy is, even though this figure looks really awesome with this face, and I'll put the other one on here too. Whoops, I dropped the H. Sorry, guys. This face also works quite well as far as I'm concerned. Kind of the Michael Myers look, in my opinion. The thing is, this head still feels like it fits in with this figure. It's the first time I've ever seen a Mondo figure where you could put the vintage head on it and it doesn't feel odd or out of place. And that's saying something, because this always, their figures aren't necessarily meant to be this. I always feel like they give you this as an option in case, this is what you like. The vintage is in your veins, but I would never display a figure like that until now. And now I'm looking at this going, you got my attention all of a sudden. Exactly. Thanos Copter here. And again, this is me taking control of StreamYard for the night. So please be gentle with me. I usually have the other guys, or at least the Dooch, with me to do this. So hopefully I'm going to handle this well. But yes, Anti Eternia, Thanos Copter, Anti Eternia is one of my favorite Masters concepts, which is a bit funny because when I first saw him, I was like, WTF, I'll just do that since this is a review. What WTF is this? But the more I learned about it, the more it intrigued me. And I'm the same way. Anti Eternia He-man, for anybody who hasn't heard me say it before, I'll just say it again. The concept of him chills me to the bone. The concept of Anti Eternia He-man is he's the most evil man in the universe versus He-man being the most powerful man in the universe. That freaks me out on levels that I can't even fathom being freaked out on, because the idea of saying something is the most evil, if you don't even have the ability to imagine how evil that is, you don't have it in you to be that guy. So how do you fight somebody who's flat out saying they're the most evil man in the universe? I mean, in my head, I can't even fathom what that would be to be evil to somebody. I'm typically not a confrontational person. I'm typically not a, somebody that wants to do bad to others in general. So he is a concept. He's like, the best way I could describe him was he is like the Michael Myers of the Masters of the Universe lore, in my opinion. He's got that boogeyman vibe. And when they made the multiverse comic, it actually bummed me out that he talked a lot. I really didn't want him to speak a lot. I kind of wanted him to be this agent of fear that would be showing up. You didn't reason with him. You couldn't reason with him. He would just flat out just come and get you. And the fact that he was singling out He-Man in the various multiverse and killing them one by one, there is something to that that would make me just go like, that's just messed up. And then on top of that, if he didn't say much, he would be unnerving. And unfortunately, when they did the multiverse book, he was talking a lot more than I expected. And that, again, it's my headcanon. My headcanon is this guy is an unrelenting force of evil. Just that simple. But let's see. So articulation wise, we'll get into that a little bit here. I'm not the biggest fan of getting into the articulation typically, but I'm doing it. It's a review. So there is articulation here above the waist right here, which is kind of cool, but this will break up the sculpt. It does look a little wonky, but if you needed to lean them back, there is a little bit of that going on here, which is kind of cool. You can lean him. I'm trying to get my thing to work here. But there is the ability of leaning him forward and ab crunching him forward slightly. So there is that. The sculpt's freaking beautiful anyway. There is the loincloth that is not fabric, but faux fur, which I think is awesome. We also have the waist twist, which I know was a QC issue with the deluxe He-Man. There were so many people that had trouble with that. They fixed the QC issues, which I think is awesome. And I will also give credit where credit's due. Mondo did look after anyone who did have problems, that did go back to them and say, hey, my figure is messed up or whatever. And they tried to make it right with them. And I'm very, to this day, I'm still curious how much that actually cost them to do that. But the fact that they did it, that speaks to me on that level. Who do you like let's see. Who do you like, Faker or Anti Eternia He-Man? I like Faker for the concept of Skeletor needing someone to. If Faker's almost like a plot device. He's interesting in that, you know, I always thought the idea of Skeletor creating a He-Man in order to confuse people and maybe discredit them, that was always something that interested me as a kid, because, you know, like Superman typically had a Bizarro, and that was about the most I could remember of there being like an opposite version of a character. So the fact that Faker, if I remember right, I probably learned about Faker before I learned about Bizarro. So that interested me in that, you know, Skeletor needed to create this in order to have an advantage. And there's something fun and gimmicky about the fact that, yeah, he also is blue and not even the right color scheme. And I personally think Faker's blue all the time. I know that in 2000X and there's one or two other places they've done it where Faker turns blue if he's defeated or if he's deactivated, but I personally just love the idea that he's just blue all the time. 2000X was going to use it as a plot device to say that he's Gar, and that would have led to discrediting him even more, if I remember right. And that could have been a really cool idea in, you know, the season after the Snake Men, if they would have been able to do it. But the evil part of Anti Eternia He-Man is what really draws me in. The whole idea of there's this world where Skeletor is now the hero, and, you know, Beastman, Merman, they're the guys who are fighting the good fight against evil He-Man, evil Man-at-Arms, evil Teela and stuff. It's like, that's just cool. I think that's a better idea, in my opinion. Plus, the color scheme and all this is just like creepy to me. I mean, it's very, when you look at it, there's an impact to this character. And what I love is I have this dark shelving behind me, And even with the dark shelving, you can make out parts of the details, and it's the whole like he's the thing in the shadows that goes bump in the night kind of a vibe. And I love that about this guy. So I would give the edge to Anti Eternia He-man, I think. But anyway, yeah, the QC issues, as I was saying earlier, they have definitely been solved. There is no fear of turning this figure at the waist. The internals are working nicely, so we're good there. We do have the pivot on the shoulder, which is cool. And then I like that they also have the turn here at the shoulder where the bicep meets. It reminds me of the classic tooling, which is really cool. And then you have pretty much a almost 45-degree bend in the elbow. I do like there is, here we go, there is a little piece there to almost give it that, you know, like they're filling in the gaps where the and for the life of me, the elbow will be. I don't know why, it's the nerves. I think I'm just here like, what the hell part of the body is that? I love that they have these little bits and pieces to it and stuff like that, like the elbow joint there. And then on top of that, well, another thing that I think is great, we do have the holding hands here, but then there are also fist hands. And there are two each of these. And then there's only one of the pointing hand. He wants you to be a part of Anti Eternia. So if you want to have your Anti Eternia He-man pointing, it almost makes me think of like in the Christmas Carol with the Ghost of Christmas Future, where he just points at the grave, you know? I kind of dig that, where it's he just points at He-man and he's going to take on He-man, and that's all there is to it. And no one standing between them is going to stop him. But the one thing I love too about this with the interchangeable hands is you can take off, if I can get it off here. Now it's going to make me a liar. Picking your nose is evil. Oh, no, we won't do that. We won't do that. This is on there pretty tight. Let me see if I can get the other one to work. The other one is definitely looser. You can take off the wristband, and you can have them just be without the wristbands if you choose, which I think is really cool. It gives that like Alcala vibe that I love. Like I know in the early mini comics, there was that image showing all the figures that you'd get in the line in the very beginning, and He-Man didn't even have his wrist bracers on. He's just there with the harness. He's holding his axe and all that, and I just thought that was cool. So I really got a kick out of that. And also, Skelevator, hi man, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. This is my first attempt. Tell me how bad it is or good it is. I'm hoping it's better. Like I'm hoping it's more good than bad. Let's put it that way. But this is my first time trying out a review method. But I really wanted to do this because, first off, Mondo Skeletor, the deluxe version, is up for pre-order. So if this ends up making somebody go, you know what, I might get in on these, now's a perfect chance. I mean, between them having, I think it's shop pay, and you go through a firm, you can make monthly payments if you want to go that route. You could pay it outright if you have that kind of money available. I've also used Klarna, so call me Klarna Skavarna. And that's actually really cool too, because Klarna has different levels of how long you can pay off as well. I chose, if I remember right, I chose the 6-month option. So you could do it where it's like every other week. You could do it where it's monthly, however it is. These, in my opinion, and I'm somebody that comes from, I'm definitely not wealthy in any way, shape, or form. I I am somebody who is a paycheck to paycheck kind of a person, but I enjoy collecting what I collect because it brings me joy. And I still somehow manage to pull this stuff off, even with my limited amount of funds. So in that way, it's like, I don't want people to be looking at these figures and saying this is completely out of my grasp if they are something that would bring you joy. I'm saying there are options. You don't have to go into credit card debt. Klarna doesn't do credit checks. They don't. It's not a credit card thing. They do. There is an APR added to when you buy that stuff, but at the end of the day, it does get you the figure, and when you pay it off, you're good to go. You're done, which is great. So let's go to the bottom half here. So yeah, underneath, he does have a loincloth underneath too, which is pretty fun. I don't know if you want to look up your figure skirt, but hey, go for it if you want. And then the legs go out about that far, I want to say. So not quite like a 45-degree angle, but they do split pretty nicely. So when the Battle Cat comes out, if you want to have them, and I wouldn't do it personally, but if you wanted to customize a Battle Cat that's about to come out to have him ride on, there's plenty of room for him to get on Battle Cat and ride it properly. And then I'd say here's my one critique out of anything. The knees are probably the wonkiest part of the figures. And I'm going to also say, I don't know what would make them look better. I don't know how to make them better. I'm not a toy maker as much as I enjoy toys. I'm not a toy maker, but there is a part of me that feels the way that the legs are is a little weird. They do the job because you get a bend at the bottom, which is great. So you can have the bend there at the shin, but there is also, if I can do it, there is a bend right here where it connects to the thigh, which is great. So one way or the other, you can get into some interesting positions. You actually get more out of this than you do out of the arms. So posing wise, there is that, which, hey, that's great. But it's the aesthetic that I'm like, I feel like I wish there was a aesthetic I could offer to go, could they do this? Could they do that? I don't have that. Yeah, right here. Exactly, Joe. Budgeting for figures. I'll tell you what. Between All Stars 6 Plus and then there was the Armies of Ashmore Kickstarter recently. Again, congratulations, Matthew Rodriguez, friend of the show, who managed to get the funding and all that for that line, and he's living his dream. I mean, how awesome is that he's able to do that now? And those figures, especially with the horsemen involved, were something where for me I was like, okay, the horsemen, if you've gotten into any line like Masters of the Universe 2000X, if you got into classics, if you got into Mythic Legions or whatever, there's a quality that usually comes with those figures. And the fact he got them on board made me go, I have no qualms whatsoever in backing your Kickstarter, because that's awesome. I trust the company and everything. But it's like the way at all this storm. And then on top of that, I'm sure there's other pre-orders I'm not even thinking of right now. And there's probably going to be pre-orders coming up in the next couple of months that I'm going to be like, now, how am I pulling this off? So in that way, yeah, it's difficult. There's no way around how this all works. And, when you have X amount of funds, you're also trying to make all your bills on top of that. Completely get it. Like I said, the Klarna thing is definitely something I would go to if you want to go that route, and if something speaks to you enough that you need it, that probably wouldn't be a bad option. But I completely get it, and it's like Mondo, at least in this case, this is the first time they've done this, as far as I'm aware of. they've given a 10-day window on Skeletor. That made me actually cheer, because I was like, if they're going to do the 2-day thing like they did last year when He-Man and She-Ra were both announced, I was going to be really mad, because I figured I could probably pull Klarna to make some of this work, but I'm also like, I don't know if it's going to actually go through, because I do have other things I'm paying down on that. And then it's do I have things I can sell? I hate cannibalizing my collection. So yeah. And yeah, Thanos Copter, All-Stars 6, Armies of Ashmore took a bite, plus Red Sonja. I mean, see, that's the thing. Like, I am somebody that I've tried to almost have blinders on about other things, because I wasn't expecting to be as immersed as I'm getting into Mythic Legions is there, obviously, and now Mondo. Mondo was one that a year ago, if you told me I was going to own any Mondo stuff, I would have laughed in your face, and then probably like snorted and laughed a bunch more after that, because up until Deluxe He-Man, Mondo was just like, no, I'm good, because the initial He-Man, the initial Skeletor didn't appeal to me. And now, here I am doing this. This is crazy. So, last bit of articulation. Let me double check here. There is no boot pivot or boot swivel down here. There is, like, you can swivel the lower leg where it meets the knee, but there is no boot swivel here. And then there is ample room here, at least going down, for the ankle. It does not go any further past this point, which is barely any further than it would be if you're just at flat out like sitting them on a shelf like I do. So those are your articulation points. Honestly, for a figure this big, it's got pretty much as classics, if not, actually it might have a little bit more than classics, especially in the knees and the arms, with how those elbow joints work and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that is the basic figure. And then he also comes with, just put it on here. I feel bad that the original one is down at my feet somewhere, but I don't want to go off camera right now. He also comes with the Battle Scarred Battle Armor H, which I think is cool. And the thing that I love about this, I know as kids we love doing the rotating drum in the figure, but I love how this is now a magnet, and there's a little magnet on the back, and all you got to do is just put them right on there, and you're good to go. And the same with the battle armor. Classics, I know for a fact, that's one of the features that I will not mess with, because it does have the little clips, and those clips are very hard, and they could get brittle if you keep going back and forth to open it up. I love how on this, magnets. And I absolutely love that that is something that works. Let me see here. I don't understand the short order windows. You'd think they would make more money with more time to order. I agree completely, Joe, on that one. Like, that's the thing. At least like in the case of Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, anything that the Horsemen have been doing lately, those windows are typically longer than a month. And so that gives you at least a decent amount of window to go, okay, how do I prioritize what I'm going to make work for my pre-order going into the next month or something? And then at least you have that cushion of time, or you have the time to go, I need to sell X amount of stuff in order to get a pre-order to work. Fine. 10 days is still not a huge amount of time, but when the last pre-order for, like I said, the He-Man, the She-Ra, they even had, what was it, when Battle Cat came out, I think that was only 2 days, and it's difficult. I mean, especially like if you aren't using these afterpay options, or you don't have the credit on your credit card, or if you don't have the cash right off the bat, yeah, like it is very difficult. I completely understand that. That's part of why me doing this, I wanted to at least go, hey, there are the afterpay options, and those are now easier to use, and they're accepting people in order to be able to do this, and that's great. So, if you do want something that is going to be a little over the budget of what you can do right out front, at least you have that option to pay it down over, like, 6 weeks, or 6 months or whatever. So, let's see what other comments I need enough time to only eat. I'm right there with you. I haven't gone the ramen route yet. I don't think my family would even let me do that. They wouldn't be that crazy. My wife doesn't hate me that much, but yeah, it is one of those things where, what do you love more? Do you love having, like a good dinner every night, or can you stand doing some, spaghetti and meatballs a couple times a week, just so that the money that you're not spending on fast food or for other things can go into your habit. But yeah, so all around this figure, I agree. I saw the one comment up here, Thanos Copter, the funky ankle cut. I agree with you completely. It is one of those things where when you pull it down, it's like, okay, that breaks it in a way where it just looks so awkward that I almost feel like they didn't need to do the ankle cut personally. But I don't know. I don't mind that it's there. And one thing that I'll say every day of the week, because one of the things that absolutely drove me crazy when I got into classics, I could not find figures that had tight ankles. I always ran into loose ankles on all my figures. So it's an inside joke with me and the dude. She's like, I know how you like your tight ankles and all. And it's like, yeah, because every freaking time I go downstairs, He-Man would have been falling on my concrete floor. I didn't spend the money to buy him on eBay so that he could just topple over every freaking day. It drove me crazy. So in the case of this figure in particular, this figure is very tight. There's no looseness. My deluxe He-Man, for instance, his right leg had a looseness to it. It wasn't enough to make me feel I needed to give it back to Mondo and get a new one. But it was enough to make me just, every time I would hold him, I'd be like, there's that loose ankle. This figure is tight and tight and tight. Simple as that. I don't know if that'll be my tagline. I really don't want it to be, but I'm just saying. And then here at Skelevator. Really digging the figure. One pose a month for a figure like this. Display only. So weird. Articulation doesn't bother me so much with something this big, as long as they stand up. And yeah, they do stand really well. Shelf diving. Yeah, my buddy's cuss. Yeah, that shelf dive He-Man was not an option. That's the dumbest He-Man variant I've ever heard. And I wish I could do the stands. Joe's saying that he uses stands on all his figures. I started learning all of the weird ways of handling that. I had the clear rubber bands that would come with the classics figures. I would just put them aside, and anytime I had a figure with loose ankles, I'd wrap the ankles up a bunch. And I even did a tutorial on Facebook at one point in one of the groups that I was in, where we would unbox stuff and show off what we got that week. And I would show people, this is how you do it. If you have a problem, it's not invasive to the figure where it's going to break the figure. You're already using pieces that came with it, so you're not having to go out and buy extra things. To just use that clear plastic and wrap it in there. And the clear plastic, the clear rubber actually blended in fairly well with the figure, so you didn't feel like you're getting a weird effect or anything. And then there's the Kiki loose figure fix that I love that stuff as well. And people have all their different ways of handling it. So, let's see. I have every shelf type variant in Origins. If I breathe on my display, all my figures topple over. I'm very sorry to hear that, because just the other day, I've been working on this display behind me for the last month. It's taken me a while. I have 6 bookshelves from Target that I've rigged up all behind me and off to the side so I can have this display and use it to do my podcasts when we do video. And the one that got me was I was putting my classics up, and one of my classics on the back of the bookshelf ended up falling over when I was not right there, and it knocked over a He-Man of all figures right on the concrete floor, crack. And I was very lucky that nothing happened to that figure. Those, I won't say all of them are built to last, because I know I had a oh man, I cannot think of her. Natasha. I had a Natasha, and she fell off because my cat got on my shelves, snapped right in half. I had a Light Hope, and he's translucent. He fell off accidentally, never cracked, but something inside of him ended up being loose and was driving me crazy. He would rattle every time after that. So, but anyway, yeah, for the figure, this is basically a foot tall figure. Yeah, 12 inches, foot tall figure. And that's the articulation you got. So you do have the ability to get him into some really good poses, really make him look intimidating if you want, or you can make him look heroic or whatever you want him to do when it comes to the overall poses you want to put him in. The other cool thing over here. Nope, I forgot about this. I'm glad I did that. There is also a shield. Forgot about the shield and the accessories. There is also, where is it? I just saw it. It's here somewhere. Here it is. I had it ready. I was too ready. It comes with this. It is not a jellyfish. It is the Thunder Punch. So if you want to get He-Man, Anti Eternia He-Man, to go full on Castle Grayskull, or I shouldn't say Castle Grayskull. If you want him to go Power of Hellskull crazy, it works only on the right hand. That's one thing I'm just learning. If you want to do the Thunder Punch, bam, you got your Thunder Punch action as well, which I think is awesome. Again, there's something just cool about the fact that in classics we got the basic figure, and he ended up coming with 2 different shields. He had the traditional style He-Man shield, but then he ended up having a black version of the Grayskull crest shield. Now, I'll be honest, that's something, I love these bells and whistles. I love the battle armor was what put it over the edge for me, and I said, I really love this figure. The one thing I wish Mondo could have done with this figure is that shield. Let me see. Over here. 1 second. This right here. If they could have given it, and that isn't actually Grayskull thing now that I look at it, so I'm sorry about that. But I loved that. It distinguished him from He-Man, and it gave you this spooky vibe with that kind of a shield and the skull and everything. So I really wish that Mondo could have had their own take on this and added that in. I probably would have given up like the Thunder Punch effect if they would have been able to do the extra shield, or if they would have just done the shield that way and not given us the repaint one for the traditional He-Man. But that is probably my biggest complaint about the figure. So it's, I mean, if that's my biggest complaint, that's not a really, it's not a good complaint. It's just that simple as far as I'm concerned. The other thing, if you don't know anything about Mondo, which again, I'm still new to it myself, but for those of you who have not collected yet at all, the one other nice thing that Mondo provides with their figures is a stand. Now, they don't wrap around the figure the way like a doll stand might. Like I have the NECA quarter scale Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles right over here in my corner. You can see some of those on Off-World when we record. I ended up going online and getting doll stands that wrapped around their shells. This one is not that kind of a doll stand. It actually cups them under their goods. So basically, it ends up being just a piece that you sit him on, sort of like that. And then it'll go up under the loincloth and it'll give him an extra state of protection so that he is able to just stand there and not fall off your shelf. Again, I've had him on my shelf now for at least 2 weeks. No problems whatsoever. But it is nice that they also provide this. On the bottom, there is Mondo M. So it would have been kind of cool to have it be like a legit, here's a Masters of the Universe, like an icon or something for it, like maybe the H for He-Man, the Battle Armor H, and maybe like the bat from the Battle Armor for Skeletor or something. But it's still cool. This is something that you don't have to pick up separately. It comes with the figure. You do have that added level of protection. If you want to put the figure out, you are less likely to have a problem. So, and Ostradamus Toys is in the house. Thanks. Hey, good to see you. He wasn't able to be on the Toy Frenzy the other night, so it's good to see he's up and about and he's got some rest. So that's awesome. Skelevator says that he likes both of those shields. Agreed. Like I said, the only reason of my nitpicking about the classic shield, again, for those of you who might have missed it, the classic shield to me is freaking cool. I love that sets him apart. It gives you this, just, he looks villainous having this shield on him compared to just having the He-Man shield, as far as I'm concerned. It's one of those little touches to make you go, he's his own figure. He's his own character in that way, which I think is really cool. But again, with all of the other bells and whistles and the fact that you get this battle armor, the translucent Hellskull red battle armor, win, as far as I'm concerned. That was something that completely blew my mind. And when I saw that that was the case, it was a must-have just for that reason. And depending how you are with translucent things, you might understand. And depending if you don't like them, you might go, you're freaking nuts. I am sometimes. It's like, ooh, shiny. I mean, this power sword is enough to make me go. Like, I think when I saw this, I was like, ooh. And then the battle armor was like, ooh. So there you have it. So yeah, that is Anti Eternia He-Man in a nutshell. Yeah, we went over all the extra parts and everything. And once again, I do want to thank Mondo for even agreeing to do this. This is amazing. I more than appreciate that because, you know, for me being on Legends of Grayskull, I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and we never have pushed out like this before. So the fact that now here I am being able to do this and show off a figure that I was very much impressed by, very much happy to have on my shelf. Is it a repaint of He-Man? Absolutely. Does it look great? Absolutely. And he's one of those characters, because of classics and because of the internet, that has now become a part of my canon, whether or not others have embraced him in the same way. I think he's great. I just love the idea that you have that alpha and omega thing of He-Man being the best power of good, the most powerful version of good you can possibly imagine. And then if this guy is the rat bastard personification of the ultimate evil, I'm good with that too. So definitely awesome. A special evening with Shawn. Thanks for making it, J-Mac. Even if you can't make it, even if you can't be here for that long, I appreciate it, man. You're there for all of this stuff. You're awesome like that. So yeah, right now, Mondo has their deluxe Skeletor for pre-order until Friday, if I remember right. I think Friday's the 30th, until June 30th, and that one just looks absolutely gorgeous, absolutely amazing. The amount of special pieces with that figure are insane. The fact that we get an articulated dragon for Dragon Blaster Skeletor is more than enough for me to go, I absolutely need this figure in my life. On top of the fact I want Skeletor on my shelf. But the other cool thing is, if you go on Mondo right now and you want Skeletor but you didn't get He-Man, the normal edition, which here he is right here, the standard edition He-Man is also still available right now. So you still can get a He-Man and a Skeletor to put on your shelf and have the ultimate battle on Eternia for good and evil right there, courtesy of Mondo making these amazing foot tall Masters of the Universe figures. So I'll put your guns on. Yeah, no kidding, man. It's been a long time. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. So I was not trying to twist anybody's arm. I'm just trying to be a good person and promote Mondo, only because, like I said, they blew my mind that they were willing to work with me to even do anything like this, and they made me feel like, you know, like they really did gain confidence in me as somebody who's buying their product. I am buying these as well. This is a review sample, as if I can even get the words out. But I have bought the He-Man. I bought actually two versions of He-Man, one of which was the deluxe, the other was the standard, and I will put one of them into the battle armor so that I can have battle armor He-Man, traditional He-Man, and then the Anti Eternia version as well, and then Skeletor. So, but yeah, J-Mac, I'm very happy to see that you would like to get the Mondo Skeletor, and I hope you're just as happy. I think that when I saw that this week, I could not believe how awesome that figure is going to be. It's just that simple. And also, look at that bitch. Sorry, I'm gonna actually do, if this goes well, I'm gonna do some reviews of figures that I just like in general. So it won't just be me shilling every time I do this. But I wanted to start with this one because I promised them I would. But yeah, also the Terror Claws being in there, and the mini comic Terror Claws, I didn't even realize that was even something. And then when they did the reveal, and there's the deluxe, everything you get with the deluxe, and the Terror Claws were part of that. I hate Terror Claws Skeletor except for the claws. The fact that you can do this figure now and he can be in the regular Skeletor look, aces. Love that. That's not me shilling, that's me being honest. I just love that. So yeah, if you want to pre-order Skeletor, and if you want He-Man, or if you just want He-Man, or if you just want Skeletor, they are available on Mondo Shop right now. Check that out until Friday, and then we'll wait and see. I'm waiting to find out when the Battle Cat will be released finally. There was a notice recently that it might be in July. So that could be my episode 2 of this if I don't decide to do another review until then. But yeah, check out Mondo. And like I said, the only negatives that I could come up with, that the knee joint is a little wonky. It's not like it's a loose figure, but it is just aesthetically. I can't think of how they could have done it better. But I'm just like, okay, that part is a little. It's there for the articulation, but it is a little wonky when you're looking at it sometimes. And that ankle joint, I would probably say, is also like, it is a very weird way it breaks the sculpt. But beyond that, still, in my opinion, quite a gorgeous figure. So, well, and again, if you could do the afterpays or however you want it to work, Bud, there is a chance maybe you could. I'm not trying to push people to do that in a way where it's out of your comfort zone and you're not able to. But that's how I've been able to do this kind of stuff. And I just have to be very cautious in how I do that too. So, but anyway, yeah. Anti Eternia He-man, the most evil man in the universe, on the shelf, courtesy of Mondo. Thank you again, Mondo, for the review sample. I appreciate it. I will be back with more reviews in the future of things that I either enjoy or Battle Cat. That is going to be freaking cool. So thank you, everybody in the chat who joined me. I'm really happy that I wasn't expecting double digits even in views, and I had 10 people at one point. That was freaking cool. So thank you, everybody who joined in tonight. Thank you for any comments and stuff, and just hanging out and talking shop with me. So I'll see you again on either Toy Frenzy or this Friday night. There's always the off week of Off World with me, Curtis, and eventually Jesse will show up. So I'll catch you guys later. Have a good weekend, everybody.